Hello.
Hello and welcome back, one and all.
Yes, yes. Everyone below 8th place, guys, has less than 10,000 points. So that's kind of the
Huh?
gap. Right? So 8th place has over 10,000 seeds of knowledge, but then ninth place has under 10,000 dreams of knowledge. Jump scare. I'm very sorry. It said break over. I was even late, you
It
know?
did. Yes, this time Ori was late.
Did you make me lose the game on purpose, Atathis, or was that just a coincidence, an unhappy for me coincidence? I don't know. But
Maybe we'll
spelling,
never know.
spelling was mediocre. However, in stream pairs, yeah, I know,
Oh,
shame
stream.
for shame.
Theirs went hard.
But remember, in stream pairs, we passed our high score. Our high score was
We
level 12. We had
did.
never beaten level 12. We beat level 12. So we
I
moved
was
up in the
very
world.
impressed with them. We even got to see a whole new type of pairs. It was suits, like
It was
cards.
really wild. It was really wild. Honestly,
It was
terrifying,
crazy.
horrifying. But
Oh
we
yeah.
made it work. We made it happen. We diddly dabbled, and we did. And we came. We saw. We went, and we improved. And you
We
know what?
literally indeed, and we did a fantastic job. And now we have a new bar to surpass next
Yes,
time.
exactly. And we got close with the suits. I looked back to give everybody points. We got 11 out of 13. So it's not like we weren't
I
going
I actually
better
think
now that we
we
knew.
might have gotten 12 out of 13. Someone slipped in last minute.
Oh, maybe.
We were
But
really damn
I think it was
close.
just 11. But we were very close. And so the whole thing with that was just the idea that, like, I think next time we can beat 13, right? We
I
got
think
past complimentary. What do? You break out your spare d20 that you should always have on you. You should always have a spare d20 on you, and you run up to the table and you say to them, "Roll for initiative," and you roll
yes.
for the monster.
And they can't eat
And
unless they
and
roll
it's
properly.
even better. It's even better if you know the trick about how to roll like 20s, where you position the die like in a certain way and you can like fake roll a 20, that would be even crazier because then it's like, damn, you mean
Ori,
business.
that sounds like cheating.
Again, you don't do that when you actually play the game, right? But we're talking about for this like this encounter, right? Because it's like Pokemon the D&D, right? So you run up to them, you make eye contact. Hello,
I
Parker Woolley.
challenge you to a duel.
Jamie, how could you? You always need to have a spare D20 on you. You got to keep them everywhere. In every single
Uh,
pocket of your pants, in every single pocket
Jamie,
of your
literally
shirts,
never
in
leave
every
home
single
without
bag.
one. Why do you think
Like,
people buy so many die? It's so they
get
always
a
have one
metal
on their
D20
person.
and magnetize it to your phone or something. I don't know if you got an iPhone, they have MagSafe or whatever. If you got an Android, you know, be sad and put it in your damn pocket. I don't know. That's coming from somebody who
You
uses
just say
Android.
be sad.
I did say be sad. Yes, I did
Ori,
say
you
that.
you have very strong opinions.
Jamie, Jamie, Jamie.
Mm, mm-mm.
There's at least two. I bet there's at least 2 days a year that you get presents. That's two more D20s you could have every year at minimum. At minimum. All I'm saying. All I'm saying.
That's true. And if you happen to have a year where you're graduating for something, or you happen to
That's a
do
third
exceptionally
D20.
well on
That's a
something,
third D20.
third, fourth,
I force my
still.
dice hoarding goblins and onto my table. And what did everybody get for Christmas? A set of dice. All
Yes.
I'm saying. Gotta
And
still.
I love that.
I gotta admit, I'm definitely a dice hoarder. I do have a lot of dice.
You
Do
have
I?
a lot of
I do have a lot of
beautiful
dice.
dice.
I have a lot of dice. I have a lot of
Like
beautiful
you
dice.
are flexing
Two
so hard on
sets
all
were
of them.
like something Dylan got me, and then there was like these beautiful. I was in like a Discord server. I think it was the cast off Discord server, and people were like talking about dice, and they like sent like links to new like dice like online dice stores, and they just had the most gorgeous dice, and I was like, I can't resist. One of them was very gay, so it was like I just can't resist
Ah,
the
shit.
rainbow,
Okay,
and
sorry. You have to send me the link now because I need
uh
to see that.
I've shown you the dice, I'm pretty sure.
I probably have seen the dice though. I
They're very
must have.
beautiful. They're very nice. All right. But after that dice 10, and you can look at my dice in the Discord in dice bag. Um, I have posted the images there, so you can see some of my dice there. But
I still have yet to add my dice. Maybe I will do that tonight or
but
sometime in the
yes,
near.
let us talk about comic writing related things, because
Ah,
today,
yeah.
yeah, that's the vibe, Jamie. That's the vibe. Or I go, wow, those are pretty, and then I look at the price tag and I go, not right now.
Yeah, not so pretty anymore.
Ooh, so that's why I have a bunch of like single D20s, right? Like
Hmm.
I have a couple of like very nice um like metal D20s that are gorgeous, but I just have the D20
Love
because to get the
metal.
set is like way too much money. It's like I just got the D20. And that's why I want to play in person. And we have to arrange that cuz
We
our
do. We also have some
Aloria's
cards.
player needs
Great.
to get their gift. So, All right.
Yes,
But
desperately.
back, yeah, talking speaking of executive dysfunction, Jamie, let's go back
Indeed.
to the topic of today, which is
Uh,
balancing plot and downtime.
yes.
Now, I think that a good start here, Mars, might be a brief description of what the sort of difference is, right? Like what is considered downtime, what is considered plot, right?
Yep.
Like just a brief sort of interlude there.
I think that's an excellent place to start because, you know, you may not think it, but the line can be very blurred between the two. Because sometimes, or at least the way I like to use it, downtime can be used to advance plot in
I'm
a
glad you
way.
appreciate it, Jamie.
Yes, Ori puts a lot of work into those.
My segues are notorious. No.
They are legendary. But so plotline, let's get our definitions down first. A plot, basically, it's what's moving the story forward. It's what's motivating the characters, it's an end goal that they need to reach, and the little things happening during it are what's going to push that character toward that end goal. So let's take Naruto, for instance. Naruto wants to become Hokage. Well, he needs to do some training. That's part of the plot. He needs to meet his new master who's going to train him. That's part of the plot.
Cries in
He
Jiraiya, but you know.
Sorry, the Jiraiya. I'm so sorry to bring up painful memories. I figured this was the most universal,
It is. It
thing
is.
I could use to illustrate the concept. Um, and then you also have, still sticking with our Naruto example, him meeting Sakura and Sasuke, who are going to become his team members. Now, what downtime would be is Naruto going to, let's say, one of the ramen places, um, to have lunch with Sasuke, Sakura, and Jiraiya, for example. That isn't necessarily pushing the plot forward. It's not helping him toward his goal or anything. However, it's time for the characters to interact. It's time for the characters to get to know each other and to play off each other. And you kind of see, okay, who is. Oh, okay. No, I'll restart later. Thank you, computer.
Restarts right now. No.
No! My Wacom tablet just updated. I wanted to color during this segment as well. I should be sharing my screen,
Oh,
Ori.
I will do
Um,
that while you continue then.
but I had to wait for that to update because it's very pushy about that. But yes, downtime in any story is basically used to strengthen character development. And that's not saying that plot elements can't be used to strengthen character development. I can definitely think of instances like take the Owl House, for example. Um, Luce learning everything about Belos, his backstory, who he truly is, Hunter's involvement, and the history of the Golden Guard. That's all stuff moving the plot forward, and it's changing her as a character. But then you consider the downtime as well, where she interacts with Gus, Willow, Ida. That also advances her character development as well. It's just not related to the plot. That is one heck of a coincidence, Jamie. I gotta say, that's you must have rolled some cosmic die on that one.
Oh god damn. Yeah, that was your D20 roll. Whew.
Wow.
Oh, goodness.
Holy. But yes, so now that we have our definitions of downtime and plot, and now that we understand how they differ from each other, we can understand how to use them. Because one thing I had seen, Ori, the way you have captioned our video, is how much downtime should a story have? No downtime, only downtime. And I found that very interesting because that seems very genre dependent.
Yeah,
If we're
exactly.
talking no downtime, like you're talking like I would say, okay, off the top of my head, Transformers movies are the closest
Mm.
I can think of to that. I cannot, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but when I think back on those movies, I do not remember any time that the characters just sat down and talked about, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. This is how I'm feeling. It was just plot, 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 action scene, action scene. No! Okay, here's a better example. And here's kind of a negative example. Avatar: The Last Airbender
The
live
movie?
action. Oh yeah, live action this
uh,
time.
we can always come back.
No, yes. Please don't unsubscribe. No, but
Our
seriously,
favorite movie. No,
that
very much not.
that is a movie where it is all plot, no downtime. There is no moment where the characters sit down and just hang out like they did in the series. Like when you think back to Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, the animated series, you can think of all those times where they were maybe around a campfire, just talking about what they were thinking. The whole episode where Aang was having nightmares, that is literally a downtime type of episode. It's kind of along the same vein as Slice of Life. It's a much smaller story but it still has an impact on the character. Whereas with the live action movie, it was just here's a plot point, here's a plot point, here's an action scene. Oh, maybe they're talking to someone in this scene, and maybe it's framed to be downtime. Like it's two characters just kind of hanging out, but they're still talking about plot related things. The scene coming to mind where I'm talking about that is where Sokka and Katara are talking to their grandmother about the Avatar. Like they're
Mm.
talking about the Avatar. That is plot related. That's not the grandma passing down grandmotherly wisdom and telling, "Oh, be careful on this journey," or something. That would be considered uh downtime because it's not related to the plot. It's related to the character and their emotional journey, not the plot journey. But because it's just Avatar, 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 it's all plot related.
No worries,
Welcome,
Anima.
Anna. Don't worry, don't worry. You're actually just in the nick of time.
We just sort of
We're
started
talking.
talking about this. Yeah, Comic Corner only just started.
Yeah, Comic Core just started. You're perfectly fine. So that would be my example of a media with no downtime. Whereas something that is only downtime, I would say is more your slice of life type of
Yeah,
shows. Um, if
that's
anyone's
definitely where
seen
I was
Yuri,
thinking when we did that.
that's definitely example of that. And any slice of life anime essentially is a downtime type of show. And these stories are well liked and have their fans for a reason because even though it's not plot driven, there's not really much of an end goal. Like think of the movie My Neighbor Totoro. There is no plot in that movie. It's just a segment of life, and they're just they're living on this farm. They just moved in. They are dealing with a sick mother, which you could argue is a conflict, but it's not a plot. Oh, I got a pop-up and I can't read chat.
That's very true, Jamie. Jamie says that there's a famous quote, and it essentially goes, "I'm sorry I didn't have the time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one." And that's
Ooh,
exactly it. Yeah.
yeah, I would say so.
Very nice, Anima. Very
Oh,
nice.
congrats, Anima.
That's fun.
I definitely have to watch your streams one day. I'm in your Discord and I see you posting all the time, and I'm like, I need to do it. Gotta support Anima. I would agree, Jamie. It depends on the story that's being adapted. And I'm using adapted because that's the most basic example. There are a lot of stories out there that have just been butchered to high heaven because you're taking a long series and trying to condense it into like 12 episode, 24 episode, and it's just not enough. Um, if you're doing it with an original work, that's kind of on you. There's no source material to work with originally, so
That's
it's up
your
to you
fault.
to figure out that. That is your fault. And you know why? Because if you have nothing to base it on, it's all up to you.
It's very
You're in
true.
charge of the pacing in that case. Um, okay, so now we got our examples of something with no downtime whatsoever and something with nothing but downtime.
I have a very
Um,
brief question. Can you think of something that
Absolutely.
uh that was good that you would consider that has no downtime? That's very
Mm.
fast paced and fast moving. Because right now we have a good example of only downtime, right? But we don't have a good example of no downtime. And I think that's an interesting sort of thing to think about it.
You know, first thing coming to mind, and I'm still running this through my head because I'm really thinking about it.
Mhm.
I I I'm really leaning toward saying Promare, in all honesty.
Mm.
And I adore that movie. That is one of my favorite anime movies of all time. One of my favorite movies of all time. But when I think about it and really look at it, every single scene is furthering the plot. And it,
Yeah.
it does this really wild thing where the connection between the characters, like there's never a moment where they're sitting down and like they're discussing for context. The main character Gallo, he's a firefighter, futuristic firefighter, so it's got all the anime pizzazz. It's animated by Trigger, so you know it's going to be over the top.
It's great.
Um, is fighting against a group of people called the Burnish, who have been ostracized from society. Um, to put it in layman's terms, because they can't stop setting things on fire. So now they're being detained uh, for surface level reasons of keeping the city safe. But of course, there's a government conspiracy going on underneath the surface. If you guys haven't seen that, it's amazing. Please watch it. Um, but when I really think about it, there isn't a time where Gallo and Leo sit down and like Leo talks about his backstory. Like there's no point where you have that eye of the storm moment like Avatar had, where Aang dove into his past as like, okay, it's furthering his emotional journey. He's confessing, like, I was not strong enough to take on this responsibility. I ran away. And because we have that context, we see how important it is that he grows and learns throughout the series. Leo does not get a moment like that. Instead, everything about quote unquote his history is told through either the antagonist or one of the chief members who's like briefing everyone on a mission. Um it doesn't harm it though, because they still manage to work banter in between those action scenes that you do still feel the connection between the characters. I would say that largely comes down to the acting, the phenomenal voice acting as well. Both sub and dub are absolutely incredible. Um, but it really helps carry the emotion of the scene, even when the dialogue itself isn't particularly personal, you know?
And I
Um,
think that's what you're gonna get. I don't think you're gonna find a lot of long form content that's oops all plot,
that
right?
would be very hard to do because you know what accidentally can happen when you have something that's long form and you do oops no plot? It's called filler. And
No, I mean
I think
oops all plot.
oh oops all plot. I'm sorry. I thought you said no plot.
Well, because I would consider that like certain slice of life genres are like all downtime in the sense of like or most, like almost nearly all downtime, right? It is
Yeah.
all just like characters that are not necessarily a goal, right? Like I can see like Mushishi being one of them, right? In the sense of where it's like, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a goal like within the episode, right? But
Like
there's not like
very
a big overarching thing that they're really trying to do. It is just like
no. It's never
chilling.
like, "Oh, you have to fight all the Mushishi in order to get to the high-ranked Mushishi and
Yeah,
overcome that."
and
No,
you don't
it's
have to watch
never
them in any
never
order,
structured
and
like
this sort of
that.
thing. So to me, that would be like an oops all downtime, right? Where it's not
Yeah,
filler per se, and there's not like no story going on, but the idea of where it's like it is not the main point, right?
yeah.
Like in order to have any story, I don't think you can have any story that's compelling in any way without some sort of goal, per thing. Like slice of life will be like I need
Well,
to get groceries or something, but
so
it's like
I would argue that there doesn't necessarily have to be a goal. But with slice of life, there does have to be an emotional connection. Like with My Neighbor Totoro, there's not really a goal in that movie unless you wanna see May delivering her corn to the mom as a quote unquote goal. Like,
mhm.
maybe the goal of the movie is to see the mother finally home, but there's nothing really that the main characters can do to make that happen. They kinda just gotta wait and pass the time. Um, but the reason you're so invested is because you feel the emotion of those characters and you feel how much they really want their mom home, and that's what keeps you invested. Even if there is no true, like, we must defeat this thing to achieve our goal. Like, it's not like Lord of the Rings or anything,
Yeah.
but you're still
Versus, like, I
invested.
don't think you can have an oops all plot that's not some sort of short form content because then it's like you're wasting all of that airspace that you have, right? Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah. No, totally. It was actually interesting, because bringing up filler, I just thought to myself, like, filler is interesting because sometimes I want to ask you this, Ori, because you're the Naruto watcher, not I. You ever feel like the filler in that particular series was intended to be downtime, but just kind of went south, or wasn't interpreted as proper downtime? I'm curious what your
So
take on
I'm so
that
I'm
is.
gonna tell you a secret. I specifically avoided what the community largely considered filler.
Oh, okay.
However,
Good
I
to know.
do think that there is a distinct difference between what is filler and what is downtime, right?
Mm,
And this is what is very important, and this is why I think that using the word downtime instead of filler and not having them be, synonymous is very important in the
filler
sense
has
that,
a very negative connotation.
but I think it's well deserved, right? I think it's well deserved in the sense that, yeah, 1 HP Club is great, top tier. Um, I keep hitting my mic. But
Uh-oh.
you have to
Ori,
exit out of Clip Studio
how?
and you have to do
Yep,
Win
that's right.
R and then you have to go down and you have to either start it or restart it, but you have to close Clip Studio. You can't have it open.
I
Um,
forgot. It hasn't updated in so long.
but what was I gonna say? Where was I? Where was I? Oh yeah, filler versus downtime. Filler, I think the problem and the reason that filler has such a negative connotation is that it does nothing. There is no um there's no character development in any way. There's no learning new things about the characters. Like, you gain zero benefit from this. It is a
Or
little goofy, the window key and the R key, and then it should say like services.msc or something. And then you click enter, and then you go to Wacom. You scroll down to W, and it says Wacom something.
okay.
And then on the left it says like restart or start. If you can't click restart, click start. If you can click restart, and then you do it. But
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
no. How dare you? Damn it. Filler. Yeah. When you look at like all the there are lists on the internet very commonly. Yeah, exactly, Jamie. The PCM. There are a lot of things that are like in Naruto. A lot of the filler are like weird, like let's go back to like kid Naruto Sasuke thing and like fill in a story from then, but it's just stupid and kind of like weird, and just like not really doing anything for like the character development. I think it's literally like we wrote Sasuke out of the plot of them being friends too soon and we want it back, and it's like, but that doesn't really do anything. Well, Jamie, you can put them in the Discord. There is a section in the comic category that allows you to post webtoons you recommend. If you
Yes,
look
I
at the
believe is it Flyers?
no, Flyers is
Please.
the newer one.
What? Why does it say please reinstall tablet software? Did I not do this correctly?
Uh, you clicked restart and it didn't do it.
Oh no, I clicked start. Shoot. I think I
Uh,
did it wrong. All right, hang on.
it's
I'll
in
figure it out.
I think it's inserts.
When are
Oh no, it's not inserts. It's ad space. Ad space, Jamie. In ad space in the comic category of the Discord, you can post any amount of comics you
okay,
recommend.
restart the service?
Yeah.
Okay. It did not say that. It said start for some reason.
Well, that means it didn't even start yet. Now it says it's good.
Okay, restart has turned purple. I'm not clicking stop the service, so I can get
No.
out of it, I think.
So then when you're done, now open Clip Studio and it should be good.
Okay, that's what I thought.
All right. I think that is it.
I hope you guys like hearing me
But
struggle.
yeah, so
with
filler
my
is
voice
always like a
mom.
negative thing, right? Filler is not
Oh, definitely.
not a good thing.
No one
Versus
looks on it
downtime
fondly.
does give sort of that ability to grow, to learn about characters, to have some sort of anything, right? Like literally anything that is meaningful, right? And I think that's the difference. The difference is that
Okay, my screen should be back.
okay, the difference is that filler
Nope, it's
can
still
be.
doing the thing. Why is it not? Why are none of my things working?
Then you didn't install it right.
No, I did not. Shoot. This
You
is
might have to
annoying.
restart your
Win
computer
R.
for it. That might be the thing.
What do you need me to start? Oh, I hope it doesn't need me to restart the whole
Yeah, you might
computer.
need
That
to
would.
restart your whole computer. That's usually what it
Ah,
asks you to do.
rats. That means I can't draw for you guys tonight.
Sorry, Mars.
Oh, well. We have been doing some promotions for it. Not on Webtoon
What's a
directly.
promotional thingy on Webtoon? I don't know about this. Is that
I think it's like a banner, right?
we have allotted a budget for advertising that we have now. So yes, if you know anything about that onto Webtoon,
Yes. Please let us know.
let us know. I'll probably have to look into it. But yeah, so I think the broad definition is just filler. You can watch the show perfectly fine, lose nothing, and avoid the filler. Downtime
Mm.
is, well, maybe you could. Oh, bingo! Mark your
Oh,
bingo cards.
bingo!
Mark your bingo cards.
We got a butt, guys. We got a butt.
And let me do it over here. And then what did I say? Yeah, so filler you can completely avoid and lose
Filler
nothing.
does not further
Downtime,
anything.
while you probably could miss it and still understand the show, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Because you do miss out on a lot of stuff character-wise. I mean, imagine seeing all the action-y episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender and never seeing Eye of the Storm. Like, you'd be missing a large chunk of who these characters are and why they do what they do.
Exactly. We have done that, Jamie. At least I believe we have done that.
I I know I definitely wrote something for that.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I will make
Oh,
sure that that's all set up.
well, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. That is going to be very helpful.
Nice. Okay, this is what I want.
But yeah, no, I always felt there was that distinct difference between downtime and filler. And it feels like it should be easy to keep downtime from accidentally becoming filler. Cause you gotta find a balance. You don't want it to go on for too long that people are kind of tapping their feet and like, okay, can we get the story rolling now? Like I think we have all heard it before where someone's like, oh, this series is so good, but takes a while to get going, or oh, it starts out so good, but there's a little lull in the middle where it just gets a little too dialogue-y, but then it picks
Yeah,
right back up again. I think we've all heard that before.
we definitely have.
Oh, it really is a matter of how quick do we advance our full story and how quick do we advance character growth, which if you're thinking about it and doing it in tandem with each other, one should inform the other. Like if your character is not emotionally ready to confront the next obstacle on their path to their goal, then you cannot advance the plot because realistically that would not make sense unless that's something you want to do to set them back and have them learn a lesson. But then you just end up in a situation where you got to write yourself out of a corner.
I'll check it right now then, Jamie.
Ooh, I am reading all this helpful advice.
All this helpful advice about what? Oh, from Jamie?
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
didn't know anything about this. Oh, Anima, I've been seeing that one on Instagram of all places, everywhere. I was tempted to start, but I actually did a big webtoon purge on my subscription thing last night. Like I had so many I wanted to read, and I'm just standing there like I'm never going to get
Yeah,
to these.
that's the big webtoon vibe. I gotta say, there is so many, and it's just like I feel so bad.
I mean, I kept a couple around. Like for the artists I have read before and they've started second series and I've liked their
Oh,
previous
I'm
works, I'm like,
waiting for
okay, you gotta
shorties.
stay.
I'm waiting for
I am
shorties.
waiting. Oh, Jordy.
Ugh.
Just uh take all my money,
I read
please.
too much BL if I'm being honest.
No, literally all my subscriptions are just
I
nothing
read
but
too much
BL. I
BL.
swear.
I read too much
I swear.
BL.
Too much freaking BL on my webtoon. But they're so good. And they're so well
This isn't what
done,
I
and
want.
I cry every time. I think the one thing I have on there that isn't blatant BL is, this one webtoon called Plague Muffins. Haven't gotten too deep in oh, and, I think it's How to Become a Dragon. Boys
Yeah,
Love. It stands for Boys Love Anima.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Why
What
does it
what
not
is
like
that?
this
The
image?
Americanized way of saying yaoi?
The no, see the difference is it's not yaoi necessarily because in my opinion, boys love doesn't necessarily have like the sexual part to it. You know, like it doesn't
Mm.
have to. You know, like I wouldn't say like
I
I wouldn't
I
say
love how as you're talking about BL, you cut to Milano and Hotz.
because I'm trying to do it. It didn't allow me to put it in the thing. But what was I gonna say? Like I don't think Let's Cast Off would be ever considered yaoi. You know,
No. No,
does
I
the
don't think
artist
it would
draw
fall for that
NSFW?
category.
Yes, but the comic itself loses nothing, and they don't have like any moments, you know, about that. Is it the
I
wrong
could definitely
size?
see that
Oh, it's the
difference.
wrong size. That's why. Oh god, that's not what I wanted.
But it was interesting, getting back to our talking point.
Yes,
We go on tangents so much. Not that we don't love them, but we like to try to stay on track for you guys.
a certain extent.
To a certain extent. Um, but to bring this all full circle with our comic, it really
I'm
came
gonna
back
shoot
to
myself.
the genre that we picked for this particular comic. We wanted it to be very character driven and very focused on character growth. Like, yeah, there's going to be action and traveling, but for the most part, and especially for season one, it's the characters just talking to each other and trying to figure out what's everyone's vibe? What are you all about? I'm just very new to this island. I don't know who you are. I'm kind of scared. Like what are you guys? And just trying to get a feel for who they are as people. Um so that very much informed how much um downtime and how much plot would be involved. Um and this comes back to a point I had brought up earlier in which I said um downtime can forward the plot. Um because you're talking about emotional growth. You're talking about a character's development. Um once they've reached that place where they're emotionally ready to take on the plot, that's when the plot can get moving. So Hodson's kind of at the point, for example, he's brand new. He's been stranded on this island. He doesn't know where he is. He knows how to keep himself alive, but it's not like he can just grab onto a wheel of the ship and start navigating right off the bat. Um,
I
that's
don't know how to do
something that's
this.
not going to happen for a while because Milano certainly, while he is friendly to him, he's not going to trust him with his ship. Ferrex, who takes care of that ship like his baby, he's definitely not going to trust Hodson with the wheel of the ship. So Hodson's got to do a little work to earn that trust, and the best way to do that is to have him interact with these other characters through the meals they share together, through working together. It was funny if you guys have been here for earlier streams. I think it was in October, November, you were working on them, Ori. You kept working on the Hangout episodes, and we kept referring to them as the Hangout episodes. But essentially, what those episodes strive to do is convey who these characters are, like little bits and pieces of their backstory, nothing too much all at once, but just enough that you get a feel of, oh, hey, maybe there's something else going on beneath the surface that isn't apparent right away. And that, as you see when you read, informs Hotson's decisions. He starts to question how much he knows about the world and about callers in general. And it really does ignite this shift in him. I can't say it's a full on change because this boy has a lot of work to do, but it is a shift.
Mm-hmm. I'm struggling right here.
I
It
was
does
about to say,
not
what are you
want
doing?
to allow me to have this be the correct fucking dimensions and the correct fucking amounts of like pixels, and I'm going to shoot webtoon right now. Jesus
I
Christ.
I have been rambling for a very long time. I want to catch up with some of our comments. Anima, I
Oh my
have
god.
watched Yuri on Ice as well. I watched it for Valentine's Day last year. Best Valentine's Day I ever had. It was fantastic. I think I'm going to watch what's it called? It was a new one that came out last year that I can't remember the name of. Oh, Sasaki and Miyano. I was thinking of watching that one this year for Valentine's Day because it just looks so cute and so wholesome. Uh, I haven't seen Comey Can't Communicate. I heard the humor is good. I gotta be honest, sometimes romance just does not do it for me occasionally. Like, I don't know why, but like if it's very by the numbers romance, I just get very, very bored.
Oh my god. I'm dying.
What is
Fuck.
happening, Ori?
This image for webtoon needs to be a certain amount of pixels in size, but cannot be a certain amount of fucking kilobytes. And it's just not fucking happening. I don't I
Well, Anima, I kind of interpret that as a kind of Orin High School host club because it's like the romance is kind of hanging out there, but it's really not about that. So I think that's probably the quote unquote romance that I vibe with the most. Like even with Yuri on Ice, it's like yes, it's there and it's adorable, but also pretty ice skating that at least at that point in time, we didn't have an ice skating sports anime yet. And the big draw for me there, I used to ice skate, so I was like, yes, this is my shit. I am here for this.
I actually took a figure skating course in college, so I enjoy ice skating
Yep.
as well.
I
Please
used to
work.
take lessons when I was younger. I made it up to what was that move called? I know places have different names from it. It's like the fishbowl or something.
Oh my
Something
god.
like
Oh my god. I don't know what to do.
that.
I don't know what to do. It just keeps getting
Anima,
bigger.
sometimes I think when you come across anime, sometimes with occasional plot lines like that, you just shrug your shoulders and you're like, okay, that's Japan's sense of humor. I'm not fully
Okay.
on
Oh
board
god.
for it, but as long as they're not like doing anything, fine. Like Bungo Stray Dogs, I absolutely love that series. Um, they tease an incest thing in that, and it's honestly so over the top. I'm like, okay, I can't even take that seriously. This is just a gag, or at least I hope it's a gag. I'm just gonna focus on the awesome plot and powers and other stuff.
Um what was I saying? My oldest piece of art is very old anima, but
Didn't you show it the other day?
that was my oldest piece of digital art. Yeah, I
Oh,
did show it
did
the other day. Um it's the oldest piece of digital art I have is of Dipper and Mabel as Monster Falls, an AU that the internet liked about Gravity Falls. Um
it was very amazing, truly life changing.
I'm trying to make this the little, what do they call it? The square thumbnail of the whole thing. And it has to be
Oh,
180
cover?
by 180 pixels wide, but it has to be 500 kilobytes or less. And it's just not happening.
Oh, that just does not sound fun.
It's just not. I'm unable to get the resolution to be bad enough to be less than 500 kilobytes and still be
And
180 pixels wide.
Anima, I feel like we definitely had this discussion before. I totally agree with you on that one. I
What is it?
mean, in some scenes, yeah, it's borderline, and in some scenes, it is. I think you just gotta know what you're signing up for when you
I'm
watch any
trying,
show.
Jamie. I thought that's what I was doing, but I don't know at this point.
Ori, you made it too beautiful. Webtoon cannot contain its greatness. Look at these beautiful boys. Webtoon just can't handle them.
Please be the right amount of pixels. Fuck. Okay, it did better though. I got better, but it
Okay,
got smaller
okay.
this time. So god damn it. Oh, kill me.
Well, see, Anima, people will never warn you about that kind of thing. They really won't. You okay, Anima? I'll tell you a secret here. I was watching Chainsaw Man, and the whole um oh god, this is gonna sound so cryptic and so bad, but if you've seen it and you know the scene where Power rewards Denji for saving her and allows him like 3 squeezes and that's it, like I was so glad
I
everyone was in bed. I turned down the volume so quickly because the voice actress went hard, but I feel your pain.
I
At
was
least with
I was
Chainsaw Man, I knew it was over the top and it was
Oh my
going to
god.
go that route. But I cannot imagine the poor people who were just like, just want a cool show about devils and this is gonna be like Demon Slayer. No.
It's I think you and I, Mars, like I think we were watching this show. It's called The Vampire
Saga of
Dies in No Time. No, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
The Vampire Dies in No Time. And I think and my
Which weird
father
show
ended
are
up
you gonna
being
call me out on?
no, no, no. My father ended up working from home one of the days that we were hanging out. And so we skipped. We did not watch it that week.
We did not.
We did not watch it. We were like, okay,
Not
we can
watch the
watch
show,
like other moderately weird stuff, but we're not gonna watch that
but
because
not that.
it's like the whole thing is lewd humor, right? Like that is the
I would
point.
watch anything at home, but I won't watch that.
Yeah, really.
Man,
Okay.
I'm just in a singing mood tonight, guys. I'm so
Oh
sorry.
my
I
fucking god.
Is it working?
No, I got it smaller
Oh,
and now I can't
Anima,
get it smaller.
Anima, if you're questioning watching Chainsaw Man, it's an experience. The animation, very good. The voice acting is some of the best I have heard. Um, It is surprisingly kind of slow paced. I really did feel like by the time it had finished, I had watched more of a prologue than I had an actual like bona fide season. But it was still good and still worth the journey. It feels like they have set up all the pieces that are going to carry into season 2. I don't know if that was their intention, but like I said, it did feel very much like a prologue where we're just getting the pieces into place so the rest of the story can continue. I do say it's well worth it. Mappa put a lot of time and effort into it, especially the animators behind the scenes. Oh my god, I really hope they're being paid well and being allowed to see their families. Um, they do a different ending for each episode, so there's like 13 different endings in this season 1 alone, and they are very surreal. Honestly, really good art is happening in those endings. It is such surreal, dreamlike imagery. Um, my favorites have to be episode 5 and episode 6 endings. They are so good. I do recommend watching it. Just for the experience cuz it really is different from any other mainstream shonen I have seen before.
I managed it. I did it. I
Oh, that's
did
horrible,
it.
Anima. I can't believe they did that to you. Oh, that's awful.
Oh damn.
Did they spoil season 2 for you? Cuz season 2 was
I don't even remember. There was a what
hard.
was this like? I can't even remember what a spoiler would have been for season one.
The only thing with season 1 I could think of that's a spoiler, yeah.
You can message me.
What was spoiled,
See, I
Anima.
don't. Yeah, I'm so
Curious.
curious as what was spoiled.
Oh, oh, that's bad. They went all the way to the end of the manga.
Okay, that's a different story. Because I'm like sitting here, I'm like season one, I'm like, there's nothing that's like a reveal or like a someone dies or like something that I'm
One is
like,
super spoilery, but
yeah,
I know towards the end of
okay,
the manga it gets very intense. So, oh, that's just cruel.
okay, now I get to do
Ooh,
it
a bar
again.
game. Well, Jamie, I definitely can't speak fully on the matter because I don't know too much about it, but there is definitely a trend in the animation industry where animators are forced to work very long hours for very little pay, and at some points they do not see their families for weeks on end when a project is due. All the more reason I find it kind of insulting that, and I don't think it gained any traction. But if you guys want a, oh my God, what is wrong with people type story, there's a petition going around to redo season 1 of Chainsaw Man because fans were like, "Oh, they missed the point. They did this, they did that. The animation was horrible. The voice actors were terrible." I'm like, "Okay, you guys are just looking for something to complain about, and I don't know why you picked this company to bully. Like, why you made them the target? Like, ugh." I don't. This is why I try not to interact with fandoms anymore because they are just never happy with what they're given.
I managed it. I did.
Oh, I believe you, Anima. I
No, what
know,
was
right,
the?
Jamie? Like it. I don't know if it pushed the envelope or anything, but it was definitely unlike anything that had ever been done before. So, people will always find something to complain about. That's what I've learned. You just brush it off and say, okay, they need
The
to go
only
touch.
time that the fandom was right about badgering studios was when they fixed Sonic. That's it. That's the only time
Yeah,
it's been right. It's the only time it's been right. Because I gotta say, Sonic was
you know,
unfortunate.
you know, I know people who say, "Why did they change Sonic? We could have had such a great meme movie." And I'm like, "No, no, we didn't need a
The meme
meme
was
movie.
Eggman
Like
though.
Jim Carrey was enough."
Yeah, the meme was Eggman though. Like I didn't need anything else, right? Like Jim Carrey existing in a movie makes it a meme movie. You know, like I
It
don't know
really
what to tell
does.
you.
That man goes hard. Yeah. That was when peer pressure was
That's the only
okay.
time that I'm like, good job, like
Yeah.
cool,
Good
we can do
good
that.
job bullying the studio.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's one of those things where it's like I look at it and it's like, who approved of this design? There's no way someone looked at it and said, "Yes, this won't result in any fan backlash at all."
Yeah.
I
But
I just don't know what the thought
your
process was.
comment, Mars, on like the animation crunch and just crunch in so many of the artistic industries. He is Jamie. That was the best choice they could have done,
Oh
and
yeah.
was is
So
literally the reason
global.
that I didn't even apply to like the Hoyoverse position or any of that because it's like I know that I hated my life when I did not a 9 to 5 job, and so at this point I'm just terrified of that. Absolutely
I
horrified. I have
I can't
PTSD
blame
of
you.
that. Like I won't like that. I'm not joking. I like had a conversation with Dylan today that was literally
Mhm.
just like me being like, I am terrified of having a job in anything that I enjoy because I'm just absolutely horrified that I will hate it and hate my life and then never get to do fun things
And the
again.
thing that is joyful will be ruined.
Exactly. And I'm just
Yep.
horrified of this.
That's
So it's like,
indeed.
okay, yeah,
I
no.
don't blame you, especially with animation. Like, don't get me wrong, it's definitely a problem in the anime industry, especially with how many anime we get per season. But it's a problem in Western animation as
No, it's a
well
problem
because
in
there's
animation,
no
in game
respect
design,
for
freaking in
animation.
comics. Okay, I gotta say, it is unfortunate that Webtoon is a big place to post something on
Welcome
and
to
that
our
people
second
use it.
tangent of
This
the
is the
night.
yeah, we always have tangents. That's
We
part of our
always do.
brand. Okay, the
It
brand.
really
If you
is.
come here only thinking that we're gonna talk about the topic, I'm sorry, this is not the
I
place
am
for you.
sorry to
I don't
disappoint
want you to leave, but like I'm very sorry. Um,
we just cannot stay on track. Apologies.
you know, it's like Mars and I have talked about it, and I hope I'm okay saying this, Mars, is that even if a miracle happened and our comic got asked by Webtoon to be an original, we would say no.
Oh
Because
yeah,
the
'cause
crunch
we like to dream,
is
but the crunch
horrible.
just
The crunch is
sucks.
horrible, and then I've heard so many horror stories of them like taking the reins on your characters. It's like, you're not getting this. You ain't getting this. I will do anything. You ain't getting this. This is mine.
You
This is
you're
ours. Not having it.
basically selling your property. Like the person who created Kim Possible, they don't own Kim Possible anymore. Disney does.
And
Like
well, that's
it's
great.
no
And I
longer
want,
your creation.
the sort of thing. But I know that it is possible to make a community without being. Like, I look at Shorny, right? I look at like
Oh yeah.
other comics that I watch. One of them did end up becoming an original. It's not out yet as an original, but it had a big following, from my understanding, before that, before becoming an original. And so it's like, I know that it's possible, right? So it's just like, I don't want it.
Uh, it's just a sad state for the animation industry. I do hope it'll get better because we're at least recognizing the issue now.
It's for
Um,
animation, it's for games. See, the problem that I
it's
have is
for
that
animation, it's for video games. Okay.
the problem I have with the
I
video game thing is that they need to accept that they're not going to have
trust,
crunch.
I don't trust AAA titles anymore.
Well, this is what I'm saying. They need to accept that they don't have crunch and that they need to not announce games like incredibly early.
Pokemon in particular needs to recognize that we're okay with waiting a
I know
year for
about
a
that,
new
Jamie.
game. We're okay with delays.
No, it's
Like
like
we had
Baldur's Gate
Legends Arceus
has
to
been
tie us over.
Baldur's
Why
Gate what,
did they release
3?
Scarlet and Violet that year? I will never understand.
I don't know. But like Baldur's Gate like 3 or something has been like talked about for years. Like
Hmm.
multiple years now about it coming out, and they're still working on it, and everybody's still like fucking hype about it. And it's like they
Oh yeah.
release like a beta, right? That's fine, that's whatever, and they can keep updating the beta, if that's what they want to do to gain that hype. But
And I'm
it
gonna wait for them to release a patch.
again, I own Scarlet, even without all the problems that they have, that people have talked about and mentioned and said and whatever. There was no way I was playing it until they fucking announced the next game, because that's just how my life goes, right? That's
Mm.
just how it goes. I don't play
Oh,
Pokemon for social interaction. Like, I'm playing Pokemon by myself, like that's it. Like, I ain't trying to like come out here and be like, let's trade and whatever. Like, I don't
I'm
do that.
going on a journey. It's me and my
Yeah,
Pokemon
it's
and no
me,
one else.
the people of the game, and that's
That's
it.
why
Like,
Legends Arceus was so good.
I ain't trying to do nothing. So it's like, yeah, this game will, I every year, because it comes out right before Christmas, right? Every year that it comes out, that a Pokemon game comes out, I ask for it from my cousins for Christmas, because they always deliver, because they always ask what I want, and then they always get it. So it's like, I know this is tried and
You
true method.
you have reliable.
I think the last Pokemon game that I purchased for myself was Black. I'm not I'm not joking.
The last Pokemon game I purchased for myself was Legends Arceus because I had pre-ordered that because I had it at the store I was working in. So I was like, I see no reason not to get this. Then Scarlet and
Exactly,
Violet was
Jamie.
coming around, and I heard all the glitch horror stories. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want to give game like I know drop in the hat. Game Freak's not going to care if they have my money or not. It's not like it's going to teach them a lesson like, oh, I'm not going to give you my money. Then you'll learn not to rush your games and put your devs under crunch
It's
time.
not worth it.
No.
Sadly.
But I think all the backlash online might push them in that direction.
Hopefully.
Maybe. One can have their fingers crossed.
I
I'd
know
hate
I
to
know
see
I got
I'd hate to see Pokemon turn into like the same like churn it out as fast as you can like shooter games or something.
yeah.
Depressing.
Mars, very quickly, I want to ask, because Jamie suggested it. Did you want to upload this image of the coming soon as the first sort of quote unquote entry on the original, as like a little promo thing on Webtoon, but then we could actually
Ooh.
like link people to it in theory?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna
I'm
do that
surprised
now.
you even need to ask.
You never know. Maybe you know something. Who knows?
I know nothing, Jon
I ain't
Snow.
trying to do this without your, like input, right? Team.
Collaborative effort, yes. Speaking of collaborative effort, if you have a question about downtime versus plot that would get that conversation back on track, do
Uh
say.
oh, I was gonna say
You
I
did,
did
Jamie.
have a
You
question.
did.
I did. You did, Jamie. 100%. We're always here for the good ideas. Um,
Absolutely.
no, I had a question. Let me remember it.
I also
Give me
agree
a
about
second. Of course, if
Snoke's
anybody
thoughts
else has a
about.
question.
Oh yeah,
Um,
if anyone in the comments has a question about the topic of tonight or just any question
okay.
in general,
I have an
within
interesting
reason.
question. I have what I hope is an interesting question, and that question is, um, in our story, right?
Yes.
While there is sort of like there is obviously an end goal, right? But when you think about it sort of in like the like let's talk about like romance stories. Ours is not a romance story. But when you think like I think this is a very good example. When you think about it in like romance stories, right? The end goal is 90% of the time the pairing gets together, right?
Yes.
So to advance the plot is they get to know each other better, or they find out about each other, or the one regains their memory, or whatever the thing ends
Hmm.
up being, right? Like so that's the plot. But this, in my concept of what we talked about is that, but the downtime would also, in a way, be advancing the plot a lot of the time, right? And I kind of harken that back to like our comic, right? We kind of went on a tangent while you were talking about it, right? Where we do have like the sort of the hangouts, right? Or we have like literal campfire time, right? Like
Yeah.
actual thing that are very classically
We
considered
we
downtime.
made our downtime
But
very literal.
in the case of like what our goal of the story is, right? Like what our end goal that happens of the story is, like it is still in a way both these hangouts and including the fireside time is um advancing the plot in a way, wouldn't you say?
Mhm. Oh,
So how do you sort
absolutely.
of think about that, right? Because I don't think we necessarily have like true downtime when you don't have a plot that isn't character driven, right? Like
Mhm.
because we talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? The plot is dealing with Fire Lord Ozai, right? Like that
Yes.
is that is the goal. We
That
have
is
to
the
get
end goal.
there, and
Learn
all the
how to
character
control the 4
development
elements, defeat Ozai.
is like icing on the cake, right? Like that's what makes it a good story, right? About getting to
Well,
this
that's what
plot.
elevates it from a good story to an amazing story.
Exactly. That it isn't technically character driven in the sense of that's not what the plot is about, but it is ends up being very character centric, right? And
Yes.
and I think that's a big thing. Yeah, fireside filibuster. Very nice. But a lot of definitely classic bad cliche romances are the same plot. I will say
Mm.
there's a few where it's like this is kind of fun, but it is the same plot with like different elements to it, right?
It's
Like
just
how they
different
get there,
settings,
you
different
know, different
dressing, different
twists.
types of
Um,
characters.
I think it's definitely like while I say that I have a lot of BLs like as comics, the ones that like stick around are the ones that are like this is actually interesting because of XYZ.
Mm.
Like the one we talked about Cast Off, right? Let's Cast
Let's
Off.
cast
Let's Cast
off.
Off. There's too many cast comics that I fucking follow.
There really are.
Um Let's Cast Off is a BL, right? And but the interesting part about it is how it's connected, how the love interest is connected kind of with the whole family in the end, right? And how their
Yes.
whole like trauma is actually like a communal trauma, and it's very interesting like the interconnections, right? Now it is still like a oh, who's going to get the guy in the end because there is like a love triangle kind of thing. It's not a full love
I
triangle, it's a fake love triangle.
argue it's never the focus though. Like
That is
it's
true.
never like in a romance, you typically get like I would say an anime where it's like this big declaration and maybe someone's like, "Ah, no, I don't feel that way about you yet," or "Okay, let's see where it goes." Um you never really get that in Let's Cast Off. So that's never really the end goal. Even though it's never stated, you do kind of pick up early on, like, okay, the main character Haruki, he has a lot of leftover trauma and survivor guilt um left over from the time his father died. So you kind of realize that in getting to know all the people in his life and understanding how they work and understanding how he himself works and like mending all those relationships, he's also able to finally reconcile with that past trauma. And even though it's never an explicitly stated goal, it still subconsciously the reader recognizes that, okay, this is probably what the story is going to eventually amount to.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it'll be very rare for a story to leave their character in a bad place. I mean, very rarely do you see that unless it's a large part of a bigger series. Um, 9 times out of 10, when you're reading something, the character is going to end up in a better place by overcoming something, whether that be a tangible obstacle or even themselves, emotionally. Um, so in particular with Let's Cast Off, you recognize that, okay, this is probably what this is all is going to amount to. And I think Shorty is an absolutely brilliant writer because she ties the romance into the um into the growth of all the characters, how they're finally able to move past this loss and just overcome all the trauma that they've been subjected to in their lives. I think it's absolutely brilliant writing, to be honest.
But yeah, that is a an important sort of distinction to make, right? That like it's not really the plot in the end, is it? Um but yeah, so
No.
back to my question, right? Is like how do
Yes.
you balance the downtime that is sort of like also still driving the plot? Like I can't think of something, and this is an interesting thing to think about. I can't think of something that we could put or we have at least planned for our comic, and I'm trying not to do spoilers or anything, that is truly fully downtime, right?
Mm.
Because everything that Hotson does kind of, right, is plot, if that makes any sense. You
And
know what I'm saying?
I think that comes down to how our story is so character driven. Because if we were mainly plot focused, where it was like, okay, we have, and we do have an antagonist in our series. We have two antagonists,
But
and
it's about the
eventually
character
they
still.
will be. Say what?
It's about the character still.
Oh yeah, it is
That's
still
the
very
funny
much
part.
about the characters because the antagonists serve as a reminder for why the characters are the way they are, why they respond the way they do, why they see the world the way they do. Um and even further, I think this is something that if you're going to have an antagonist like say a mayor or a king of some kind, like that's a high position of power. So not only is your antagonist informing what your protagonists do, they're informing what the world around them does if they have that much power. So you kind of
Mm-hmm.
learn about them through that as well. I think I completely lost my train of thought with that one. That went into tangent territory.
Yeah,
But with what you're saying about our particular way of doing downtime, I think if we went into um let me rephrase it this way. The interactions that Hotson has with the crew very much show who he is as a character. And through those changes in those interactions, like as he becomes more open, as he becomes more comfortable, it does further the plot because we see him start out with his own ideology. He has his beliefs. They're kind of rigid in a sense. Like he's kind of like, okay, I know the world works this way and nothing's going to change my mind. But he is a scientist first and foremost. So when he sees evidence that contradicts what he knows, he's kind of going to question himself a little bit. So, like I was saying before, it's not a full change, but it's a shift. I think if we did go like full downtime, which I do see as absolutely possible. Like there could totally just be a time where Hotson is completely guards down, just having a good time. I mean, we talk about how music informs our
Oh
direction
God.
for the series. I
Hmm.
was listening to Celtic Women the other day, and I was just envisioning scenes of like Hotson clapping around the fire, Milano's dancing, and then Milano grabs his hand and they start dancing around the fire. It's like that's not furthering the plot at all. That's just downtime. Not saying that's gonna happen. It's happened in my head. Don't know if it'll happen in the comic. Cough, Ori, cough. Um,
Oh my
but
God.
you could argue that's also technically character development. Because if that does happen, that is never something chapter one Hotson ever would have done. So it's still showing a change. It's still showing growth in this character. Which is why I would argue it isn't full downtime. Um, I think if you went into something that didn't connect back to the plot like at all, like it's like you said, that's how you end up with filler
Yeah.
because it doesn't further anything.
Go
It
ahead,
just
Jamie.
exists to fill up space. Sure, Jamie. Yeah, absolutely. Fire away.
Fire away. All right, I'm about to. I
So,
posted
what's
it.
your Ori Sings bingo card?
Oh, you're right.
I'm the one who's been singing all night.
Yeah, it was me this time.
I was luring you into doing it.
Secret. All right.
Oh
Oh, I
man,
have to
I
post a ton
refill
of
on my
things.
own cider.
Oh God, I have posted nothing. I'm like doing all this other stuff. We're just talking. We're just chilling at this point. Art's not really happening.
Ooh, very interesting, Jamie. I would say as of now, Outcast as a whole, we didn't mess with languages too much. This is our first work as both a team writing and doing like a long form series. So we kind of kept it simple in that regard. However, Milano
Yeah.
does have his own writing system that Ori spent a lot of time developing. There's a whole alphabetical language for it, and you
Yes.
do see it in episode 3. So look
Mm-hmm.
forward to that.
So it is there.
And
It
there
does
is a
exist.
way to read his
It is
writing.
a method to the madness. That like it is an existing thing,
Yes.
and it is there. So you can figure it out. However, I will say it is not as
Oh, it
simple.
is a written writing system that isn't English. It's claw mark.
Yes, yeah. So I don't think this is a big spoiler because it literally is at the very beginning.
Oh, I
Um
wouldn't say spoiler at
Milano is
all.
illiterate. And that's a big part of sort of the whole deal in the end, if I'm being honest. It's a relatively large part of how Hosen thinks about him, how other people think about him, and all this sort of stuff. And there's a reason as and sort of it informs the world, the state of the world,
The
right, as
the
well.
main thing we wanted was Hotson is the book smart intelligent, while Milano is the street smart intelligent. Like
Exactly.
he is still in his way educated and very clever, but
Yeah.
he's more the
But
type who knows,
he didn't go
okay,
to
don't go on
school.
this clock at night rather
Yeah.
than I'm gonna score
He's street
99 on my
smarts.
SATs.
He's street smarts and Hotun's book smarts, and that's why they're juxtaposed, right? And that's why we then sort of had this third thing. Yeah, exactly. So Milano's illiterate, and there's when I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it is you understand more when you find out about his backstory, right? And sort of like where he came from and why he's doing what he's doing now and how he became a pirate and all this sort of thing. He is the only one that is illiterate out of the group that we have, and that is also important to the whole thing. But because Milano is not like dumb, right? He did technically invent his own writing system to an extent, and so it was very interesting for me to create it, in the sense of that, because it is technically a what's the word, like a replacement, right? Like it is a symbol equals a letter and all that sort of stuff. But you
Yeah.
also had to think about it that technically Milano doesn't know letters. So to a certain extent, there's like some other nuances in it that make it kind of really interesting and everything. Now, Jamie, about that,
Unique.
I would say that it didn't really
I
matter.
would say that it was never priority.
It
Yeah.
didn't matter.
Because eventually he had people to feel that role, and it didn't really matter to what he needed to do in his daily tasks.
Yeah, being a pirate, being, how he lived beforehand in the backstory, like it wasn't really a big deal. You can think
Necessary.
about it as like, so our world doesn't
I
have
mean,
like a time
okay, I
period,
I
right?
would say the best way to think of it, think back to, like, and this is definitely saying it far back in time, but this is the first example coming to mind. If you think of peasants in, like, say, medieval times, they were not taught to read and write. That was not priority. The job was to work the fields, make sure the harvest came in, and the family was taken care of. That was it. I would say it's something very similar to that, where the priority was just never there.
So it's less that he thought about it, right? Like there's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief that you have to sort of take into account, just because technically you could never translate what he writes in a sense, in any sort of easy way. It's more the idea that he lived on his own for a significant amount of time after living in this, after the backstory that sort of, allows him to, that is why
Uh,
he's
I
illiterate,
I
right?
wouldn't say allows, I would say forces.
Well, yeah, yeah, caused him to be illiterate, right, and caused him to not have a formal education, right, and then when
I will say
he's
this,
mhm.
Milano had expectations placed on him, and those expectations were basically, "You're gonna do this one thing when you're grown up, and that's all you need to do because you'll be set for life if you do that
That's
one
how it
thing."
works. That's how
And
it
that
works.
was not the life Milano wanted.
And so Milano's on his own, and even though then he does get the crew and everything, the world that they live in, there isn't technically a need for illiteracy. I wouldn't say like I think he's not the only illiterate person in the world, right? Like it's
Well,
not
if you
as
think of
rare.
pirates, with pirates being the outcasts of society, like, some of these people were not very well educated.
His whole sort of like hometown would have been essentially illiterate, right? Like his family is illiterate, right? Like it's more of sort of like a testament to his upbringing and the unfortunate system of the world, right, that has caused this whole group. Now, he is the only one out of the crew that is illiterate based on everybody else's sort of background and upbringing and everything like that. But then being alone and doing whatever, it just sort of happened, right? Like it's sort of like you have that desire to mark things, right? Like think about cave drawings, right? Think about whatever. Like people have this desire to record in a certain extent, right? And
Well,
so this
not
is
even
how.
record, but Milano is very much a person who wants to be remembered. Like,
Mhm.
essentially, the whole thing was, if I take this path that is chosen for me, I'm not going to be remembered for doing anything. I'm just going to be the another in a long line of tradition, and that's not what I want. I want to do
There's a
something
very
different.
good
I want to make
song.
my mark on the world. And in chapter 3, like, he shows some of his writing, quote unquote, to Hotson, who can't make it out. It just looks like claw marks to him, but they're on a tree on, quote unquote, his island. So he's made his mark. He left his mark on this island. This is proof Milano was here. He owns this island. He's in charge. This is who he is.
Yeah, it's never meant to be sort of an effective way to communicate with anybody else. It's supposed to be a thing that Milano did that the crew
Yeah.
just kind of went, eh,
The
we
crew just
accept this
kind of
is
goes,
how he is.
okay, that's
You
Milano
know,
being
none of us are
Milano.
really like he needs to learn how to read and write. Like he doesn't seem to have like a big desire that like he's missing out on something, right?
Just like,
On the
for
life that he
example,
has.
when they go to port and everything, like, everyone's very friendly there because they all get along well with the pirates. The majority of them are
But it's like
callers.
think
So
about
everyone's
D&D.
like talking and communicating, like, oh, you want those apples? Those are this much. Like, there's no
Exactly.
real writing that he would have to follow. Or if he
Exactly.
does, Synod is there, Ferrix is there, Aster is there, and now Hotson is there.
So it never
So
technically hindered him in any way either.
it also works to make him an interesting, I'm gonna say, foil to Hotson. Because Hotson is very by the book, here's the upbringing I had, very well educated. Um, and here's Milano, who Hotson kind of initially sees as wow, you are absolutely crazy and I can't understand you at all.
We're not saying
But
he's never
right,
gonna learn how to read and write, Jamie.
yeah, we
We're
never
not
said
saying that. We're
that.
not
We
saying that.
we
But at
never
this
said that,
point in
Jamie.
time, he doesn't.
We
He
just can't
doesn't.
give spoilers.
You know.
But the
um.
idea with that is, initially, because the audience is looking at things from Hoten's perspective, you got to remember, Hoten at this point is the vessel for the audience. We're experiencing things through his eyes. We're experiencing them for the first time as he experiences them for the first time. So if his impression is like, wow, I can't understand a thing that this guy says or what's written on here, the audience is kind of going to have the same reaction. And to bring it back to Downtime, the more he talks to Milano, the more he starts to understand where he's coming from, he's going to start to realize there is a brain in there and there's an intellect there. It's just not Hotson's intellect.
Yeah.
It's not an intellect that he can relate to because that's not the way he thinks. That's not the way he learns. It's very much like I forget how many of there are, but it's like a kinesthetic learner versus a book learner or a visual learner. Like we all have
Mm-hmm.
different ways of learning. That I would say was what we were trying to lean into the most. Um,
There's a lot
with
of
the
layers to
vision
it.
of them, because then they can share stuff with each other. Milano can teach
No,
Hodson to think
exactly,
a little
Jamie.
more like
Exactly.
him, and Hodson could teach Milano skills that would help him get further ahead in life. So
No,
they both have something to offer to each other, and that is honestly one of the ways you want to do friendships, at least in writing, like any kind of relationship in writing. There has to be something that's transactional in a sense because the character has to be getting something from that particular relationship. I'm
I'm
trying
just
to think
gonna
of an
say one thing in chat.
example.
I can't find a link to it, but this is a song. It's called Enough by Lost Stars, and it
Oh,
is
I
like
love that
the
song.
main sort of song that ties all of our three main boys together. One of those main boys you haven't really been introduced to yet, but it's Hotz and Milano and this third guy, Everett, that
Everett.
exists, but you haven't really seen him
It is.
yet.
We just haven't seen him yet.
Yeah. And it's literally like,
He's the Zula of
uh, yeah, but less so. He's more
well,
the Zuko.
Azula in the sense that he's revealed last and
Yeah.
then becomes
Revealed like
prominent.
Hunter, right? Hunter
Hunter.
from
Okay,
Owl
Hunter.
House.
That was a
Hunter
much
from
better.
Owl House. Yeah,
That was a much better.
yeah. But what's great about these three characters is that they're all the same and they're all very different, and that's the whole thing about it. No, literally exactly, Jamie.
No,
That's the
literally,
whole
that's
vibe.
it.
That's the whole vibe. And so honestly, I'm very proud that you're getting that because that means we did good
We
characterization
did our
already.
job right.
But um yeah, that's sort of the vibe. And so, and I think the big thing to keep in mind when you read our comic is that everything has layers. Everything is an onion.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not joking, and it's to a point where like we go back and we're like, oh shit, there's
Even
layers there. Oh
even
fuck.
panel layouts, even the way things are positioned in panels
It
have
is,
hidden meaning to them.
but in like a weird, like it's all coming together sort of way, right? Like in a
It is
very
the
weird,
wrong
like we all
theme.
just sort
It
of
is
like
the wrong theme.
look back and then we're like, wait a second, that and this and the other thing. And so Milano having like a scratch language is more of like a very hidden Easter egg that you're getting like this sort of thing to, where it's not something that's like important, right? Like it's really not gonna come up in the story. Like it's not gonna be like fully addressed in the story as to like he wrote his own language and he can actually like read out. Like that's not the point. It was more I wanted to make a code that people could break and have it as little Easter eggs throughout the thing. So it's sort of like it is a bit on the suspension of disbelief side, but it was never meant to be like
It
he
was
could write
never.
his own thing. Like it
Yeah.
was never meant to be like he would write words and then the crew could actually read them because the crew can't actually read them.
No.
Nobody can actually read them. Only
Only
Milano
Milano.
understands what they are. Now, Ori was like you, Jamie, and was like, I want a code that people can break, and so I made this. And so it's kind of
Ori was very much inspired by Gravity Falls.
Yeah, but like everything, I love codes. I love replacement codes. I in high school, my friend and I made a code, a language. We have a language. I've made a basic language with a friend that I barely
Dang.
remember at this point, but I have the Google Docs still. So
Oh, that's
I
wild.
like those sort of things. Um, uh, Now, very briefly, because I did want to mention this on the sort of language front of like, do they all speak a common language that's not English, and so they write differently? Um, the writing is all in English. It's very important because Hosen has a journal, so it's kind of and the way that we've set up the visuals is that we see Hosen's journal all the time, so it's important that they do write in English. Um, the world is sort of a very aquatic world where it's like a lot of islands, and that's important to the
It's
world building.
definitely maritime heavy, with focus on seaports, sea towns,
But while
all that
they're distinct,
trading hubs.
there's a lot of mixing in very specific ways. So we did have a talk about accents, right? That's more of the big thing, right? There's less of like a every island has their own language, but they all also speak common. It's more everybody ended up speaking common because everybody needs to speak common because of the sort of entity is like kind of making you speak common, and but you have like different accents depending on like where you are, so that's more to
Yeah,
the thing. Now,
that's
would I
where
call
all
it
the
English?
dialects created
Doesn't
come
really
in.
matter.
I I would say it's English for the purpose of our readers. In universe, honestly, I kind of shrug my shoulders and say it's not super crucial to the type of story we're trying to tell. I mean, we do have the dialects to illustrate like when is a character being honest, when are they being goofy. This dialect shows where they come from. This speech pattern shows what kind of upbringing they had. So we do have stuff like that. Um, but in terms of like different full-on languages and stuff, I kind of shrug my shoulders and say it's probably there. Um, but we did not put it in there.
Yeah, Jamie, think of it more along the lines of that, and you'll see this in the first in when we release the first 3 episodes of the comic, right? Because it's very obvious. It is pointed out what is the part that is the scratch marks, right? Think of it more like a this mark means me, right? So it's like this is my like your logo, right? Or your
Yeah.
tag. Like that's what Milano's doing. Like how a
Think of
very
the
good example.
handprint.
You know
If
how a
you've
lot
ever
of
seen Brother
animals
Bear, think of the
exactly.
handprint on the wall from
You
Brother
know
Bear.
how um a lot of uh a lot of animals will bless you mark their
Thank
territory
you.
in a scratch mark sort of way. We sort of took that to like a slightly more human extent where the scratch marks would have to be visually different because we don't all have good senses of smell. So they would have to be visually different, and that was sort of how it went to be.
Yeah.
That's fine,
That's
Jamie.
kind of how it all
I'm
came together.
explaining my thought process of to why I did what I did, and I will say a large part of it was why make this just scratch marks when I could make it like mean something that people could figure out, and that was
Yeah,
one.
Ori definitely went the extra
I
distance
literally
for
went
that one.
like I drew scratch marks, and then my brain went, wait a second. I can
You
make
can
this a
figure it all out.
language. I can make this a replacement, cipher and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it sort of got into a bit of like again I'll say because I don't want to like give you all the answers right, but I will say that there is taken into account that Milano is illiterate and he quote unquote made this quote unquote language, right? So it's definitely not it's not as simple as like taking the like Star Wars galactic text or whatever you call it and then like replacing all the symbols with a letter. Like it's a little more in depth than that. But it's not like a cipher. It's not as crazy as Gravity Falls went. Like Jesus Christ, I could not do that. I'm not that advanced. Um, but yeah, so that's that tangent.
Yes.
uh,
And what a good one it was.
I talked about it too much. I hope that everybody has tons of like questions and things to ask us after they read it. That is what I'm like going for,
Oh,
right? That's
yes.
what I'm living for,
Please.
honestly, right now. Is like if I would say any stream, but we do try to keep like uh at least the Dungeons and Dragons ones a little more on Dungeons and Dragons. Not that we don't go off topic or anything like that, but like
Oh no, we very much go off
definitely
topic.
on Comic Corner we love answering questions. Like that is like the two things that it's like fan art and questions are like that's how you make us happy, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh
that's
no, it's
it.
like we
I
are
will also say
totally here for it.
remembering the characters' names and stating one of
Yeah,
them's your favorite, that's also up there too. That's
that is
also up
also
there
one
too.
of our favorite
That's also
things.
so three things, right? You want to make our day, it's one of those three things.
Especially if someone's like, I really like this character's personality, that makes my day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. A very funny and this will sort of be like as we wind down um but a very funny example is so we did like a like a test sort of thing where we did give the original I think it was the original first second and it was definitely the first
First three
episode
episodes.
it was definitely the first episode. I can't remember if it was all three episodes, but we gave it and we showed it to our table of you know our tabletop and
Our panel.
yeah and one of them um the Aloria's player did the hardest fucking read on like all the characters and it was like and it so that was a combination of like looking at reference sheets and like a short description of Mars and all this stuff and they just gave like the hardest read ever and
Oh,
we're
we were
just like
110%.
oh my god this is the best like this means we did our job well right like
Oh,
this is like we did a good job I was
we
like wait you could have all
did.
these ideas
Ori,
we
I will be
succeeded
right back. I gotta grab a tissue.
how dare you yeah so Jamie a big sort of vibe is definitely in a very classic fantasy sort of realm but without magic right so it doesn't have a stuck time period right it's definitely not like it's steampunk or it's you know peasant times or something like that but it definitely gives we want to give off that fantasy world vibe where it's definitely like a lot of trading and a lot of close-knit communities and there's not like cars right like there's not electricity really you know like this sort of thing so it's definitely on the lower tech side of everything it's definitely not like but it is sort of in this like lost in time sort of thing so there isn't like a strict like technical advancements before this time period like don't exist it is very much a like a fairy tale would be, right? Like a fairy tale has sort of like a general idea of when it exists, but it doesn't have a like this is you know, right now or something like that. So, yeah, I was just briefly
What?
talking about like time period set in because Jamie was curious about the level of technological advancement.
So we definitely want to keep it in that time period of like the early like golden age of pirates, I would say.
Yeah,
We
but
also
we're not
want
limited
something
to
very
like
simple, very kind of it could exist at any time and
I
also no
will
time. While we definitely leaned into like that kind of
I
I
have
almost
one
want to say
distinction.
not Victorian style. I'm not sure what I would call it, honestly.
I have one distinction and I think this is very interesting and important because I do think about this. And this is that medicine in the real world advanced incredibly late. Okay? It advanced incredibly late in like germ theory and all this sort of stuff, right? So it's sort of that's probably the biggest leap that I can think of right now in the sense of that like they understand what germs are. Okay? Like they understand what infection is. You know, we're not like in like a we just need to
We're
cut
not
everything
in
off
like
sort of world.
leeches and bleeding time period where leeches and bleeding are the go-to medicines.
It's definitely a bit of both, Jamie. And that one,
Definitely a myth.
yeah. So it is one of those things where because
One of the
one
crew
of the
members
crew
gets
members,
injured.
yeah, but not even that. One of the crew members is sort of like medicinal, right? Is the doctor, the medicine man, the medic?
Yeah,
That's the word I want. The medic,
medic.
um,
There you go.
on the ship, and it's definitely like a like we have. He has a much there's a much deeper sort of intellectual level of advancement there than there is necessarily when this time period would otherwise say, right? No, exactly. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Microscope, definitely, like all that sort of stuff, like the crude, like the light one. We're not on like, spectrometers or something like that. But,
Oh, no, no.
electro, whatever, the slicing one that I can't remember the freaking name of, the very crazy microscope. But yeah, no, definitely the early microscopes, that sort of thing. Because, like, we definitely get like Darwinian vibes, because that's Hotson's vibe, is we get like Darwinian vibes, because we also have the theory of evolution, okay, and genetics, like, so this is sort of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, 100%, Jamie. So you take the golden age of piracy and just make it a little more ethical in how we treat scientific things, I guess, is the best way. Because when you think about it, it's like, we're not treating like, people aren't like just throwing women in like, houses and homes for hysteria, like we're not at like that. So it's
No.
it's like we have like a sort of social science. Oh no, glasses 100%. Glasses very much exist.
Totally.
Yep, glasses very much exist.
Glasses
And I will
are a
say, like,
thing.
there are like muskets and and small like single shot pistols and stuff like that. They're rare, though. They do exist. Cannons, again, are a thing, but it's not like everybody just has a gun. I guess Pirates of the Caribbean sort of had that, right? Not everybody had a gun. There is sword fighting, right? There is like hand-to-hand combat, so there is boarding,
There's
right?
hand-to-hand, there's long distance,
Yeah.
there's range combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole mix of stuff.
Guns are definitely expensive. It definitely shows your status,
They're only
100%.
expensive if you buy them.
There's actually an interesting, another sign of status is a boat, right? That is another sign of status. So that's a very interesting thing in our world as well. Is that sort of thing. But those are the sort of things, right? Yeah, crossbows, swords, a lot of dagger. I will say,
and there is kind of difference. We do have a military in our series that will rely on mainly guns and cannons, whereas with our main pirate gang, they're kind of sticking to the swords, the cutlasses, the daggers.
But the other interesting thing,
toyed around with the idea of a crossbow, actually, for one of them.
I think the biggest interesting thing, though, is something that you point out very easily when you look at what animals the callers in our group are. They're all predators, right? They're all carnivorous to a certain extent. And what that allows for is the fact that, yes, while there is still weapon combat, right? Like, Milano does have a dagger, like there are daggers and people do use daggers and whatever. There's also humans, right? So you're going to have a lot of humans using certain weapons that maybe Milano's not doing it, right? Right. So so we actually have Milano does a lot more hand-to-hand combat because he does have the scales, the claws, the teeth, the tail, right? Yeah. Same with
He's
Ferrex.
got built-in armor and built-in weapons.
Same with Ferrex. Ferrex is doing a lot of
why people are so cautious of callers on the mainland.
Exactly.
Like, these are people practically born with weapons and defense mechanisms.
And that's sort of a thing that we try to showcase fairly early in the comic. So it is pretty showcased in, I think, the first 5 episodes. I think is 5 or 6 episodes. We really sort of push the like, oh, you don't have this, you don't have that, like the divide that sort of sense with
definitely.
I'm gonna say the word equipment, even though that sounds very sexual, but that's not what I mean.
Oh no,
there's not really another word for it, right? I don't know, but like, having claws is an advantage, right? Like effective claws. Humans can scratch people, but they're not tearing the flesh open versus like, if a caiman bites you, if a fossa bites, claws you, we're gonna have issues.
So that's kind of the vibe we were going for with there.
It does,
Definitely.
Jamie. It definitely does, Jamie.
Yeah, that's
they're all things. I will say
that's the nail on the head.
I will say the folding mechanism of Aster's wings is interesting because, like, I like to think about how because the whole idea of colors is in the brain space, right? Is that humans, and technically in the scientific space of the world, is that humans became colors, right? So they came after humans, right? In an evolutionary sort of standpoint. So there is a level of like mysticism to it where I'm not like specifically going into it. And of course, like, why would they all be different animals? You know, there's a sort of magic to it. Yes. So actually, all of the avians in Outcast that have wings, it's actually sort of a mixture of how bat wings work and how bird wings work. So it's their classic shoulder, their classic elbow, and they have their classic hand. But if you sever, sort of, you cut off the palm at the ring and pinky finger, and if you were to fuse those two together, so you would have the first knuckle joint of the ring and pinky finger, the one that's connected to your palm. You would lose all the other knuckle joints. That's what extends out into the rest of the wingtip. So he can curl that back just like you could curl those two fingers back. And that's why he only has 3 fingers, because those are what became the rest of the wing. So he can actually fold those back. Now, it's still not perfect. Yeah, it's still not perfect. So he still would have a certain disadvantage in hand-to-hand combat, because that joint wouldn't be particularly good for punching. You wouldn't want to injure that in any sort of way.
No,
But
that would be
it does
detrimental,
allow
right?
him to actually do things with his hands in a sort of fine motor skill that you would lose if you had this constant thing kind of sticking out, really, really far, right? So that's sort of the difference. So yeah, so it was sort of like a that's what I wanted to do with the whole thing. So it's like, Ferrex's ears are positioned in a certain way where they actually encompass where a regular human's ears would be, because that's how ear canals work. And, you could go into that and everything. The tail is actually positioned, like where your tailbone is,
Would
right?
be.
These sort of things, and etc. So, yeah, that was very important to me. Same with like everybody has 5 toes, right? Even if they have, well, except technically, bone wise,
I don't think
Sinnet
Sinnet
does.
does.
Bone wise, Sinnet does. Just like a whale, bone wise has a hand. Okay, now this is all. What I'll
This is a
say.
whole other can of worms.
Yeah, I could talk about this for hours if I'm being honest, because this is something I, being a biologist, enjoying evolution, am very intrigued about. So there's a lot of inspiration that comes from mammals adapting into weird other things. It's called a collar, and I will spell it in chat. It's spelt like that. They have a scientific name, they have a genus species, and it's Homo exhalium. Collar is sort of like
along the same vein of like humans are referred to as Homo sapiens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what proves sort of that they are on the genetic line of a thing. That's fine, Jamie. I'm just putting it out there.
That was kind of why we came up with the layman's term collar.
Yeah. Another really interesting thing about having this world that does have animals and humans, right, and making it kind of, serious in the sense of that, when you talk about like movies like Sing or something, where they're gonna be like, it's not a serious thing that they're animals, right? If that makes sense. Like, they're not trying to lean into like different animals have different things. Unlike Zootopia, where like
characters is eaten at the end to Sing.
Yeah,
which raises all kinds of questions about how the hell accountability in that world works.
See, these are what we want, Jamie. All the theories, every theory, all the theories. But what was I saying? Yeah, and Sing. So it besides this one thing, it's not really like a big deal that people are certain animals over other animals, right? Versus in like Zootopia, like it's important what animals they are.
Predator versus prey.
So in Outcast, that is a fashion style, Jamie. And it, because ruffles are uh ruffles are a sign of status.
Well,
Uh
ruffles are a motif with him.
ruffles are a sign of status. Um, because they cost more fabric, right? Mathematically, so to have to have excess fabric, and this is like a history thing that you probably know about. But to
Yeah,
have that excess fabric
kind of similar
able to
to
use,
purple fabric dye.
yeah, exactly. Oh, did you reveal it?
Season two. Season
Yeah.
two for the
If
shoe.
you want him with shoes, I'll show you. Hold on. I do have one image with shoes. Where is it? Uh, Here it is. Nope, it's not. It's not in this one. Goodness gracious. Can I not find it? It is in
Oh,
references.
Jamie, there's going to be a lot of seasons. we're
Oh
we're
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
even through most
I
of the
think
story
I
with
think
season one.
we're at very least 3 seasons.
We're looking at least 3 or 4 the way things are going.
Oh my god, I got a tickle in my throat and I'm dying.
Oh, I see I think someone subscribed. There was a
Oh,
Milano pop-up, but my screen is so blurry that I can't make out who it was.
thank
But
you,
thank you,
Crimson. Thank you.
Crimson. Thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know why
welcome.
my Twitch is
I
giving me
mean,
this
I'm
super
I'm
blurry
glad
screen.
you enjoy us talking about our whole thing.
It's
Oh,
much appreciated.
season 2. Where is I'm trying to find my one thing. Here it is. Here is Hotsun with shoes. Have all your shoe joy. Yes, they're Converse because no, this is not. This is the band AU. But I had Hotsun with shoes.
Yes. Oh, look at our little college
uh,
student.
God, sweater vest boy, all the way,
My God, I love him.
top tier. He's gorgeous. He's gorgeous.
He is beautiful. We need to do more Band AU, Ori.
Again, that's gonna be like our first like Patreon goal
It
thing,
really will.
100%,
If
because
people want
that's
a
what I
Band
want,
AU comic, you know how to get it now.
and we want it to.
We really do.
Yeah, yeah. That's a. I'm trying to think if I have. There was concepts with him having shoes, but they're
There
not
were.
digital. They're not digital.
I don't think you can show that though.
They're not even digital. They're not even
Oh,
digital.
okay.
So I don't
Damn.
even have them. They're all in my sketchbook because those are like early contests.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
that is. I'm gonna put the link. That's what I was kind of in the middle of doing, and then I realized that I didn't put the link to the Twitter post that I posted today, and so it was like I was doing that, and then I got sidetracked because we were talking about the comic, and I, Jamie, you and I are very alike in that we're very, very science oriented people, and so I could talk for hours about like
And she has.
I have to stop myself from I have to stop myself constantly from even trying to think about the genetic lineage of how collars work, because that's just a rabbit hole that has no necessity to go down, and would be solely, self-indulgent. But I also don't have time for it, so that's where I am. That's what I have. This is this. There we go. That was that, and now I will post the comic link. If I could make sure it copies. I think it copied. It did copy.
Here's hoping.
Did it work? I think it worked. It didn't come up with any. Oh, there it is. It's in there. It's in hot off the presses.
Ah, yay!
Again, Jamie, for the whole time, we're more than happy to have questions about literally anything.
Oh, yeah.
Literally anything. Mars is definitely on like the character, story wise and everything, and I definitely have a little more of like the world lore, and like the science rate and everything like that. And definitely I have the most information on the colors. I think Mars is just here for the ride on colors, on like anatomy
I so
and
anatomy
genetics.
wise, I definitely don't follow as thoroughly as Ori does. That just was not my bread and butter for my schooling experience. I was more focused on character interaction, character dialogue, character portrayal,
Hmm.
as well as story direction and concept. But I
All I
think it
can
all came
think,
together in the end.
yeah, I didn't spell it wrong. It's spelled outcast, so I don't know.
Are you looking under canvas, Jamie?
Now you're gonna make me check. It might be weird if it just like came up.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, I see 5 canvas results, none of them being ours.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, nice. I see that. Oh, that just happened. Very cool. I got a commission.
Nice. Maybe if you try looking up folding planets, Jamie?
Yeah, I think it's just literally brand new. Like I just posted something about it and everything right now.
Yeah, it might
So
take some time. I never knew that was the case, but there it is.
yeah, I would wait until, a couple days and see. But everything will have links. That'll be updated because I probably should do this with Tapas and Global Comics as well.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
but yes, that I will do. That is that. Also, when we're at
And
like 5-day countdown, that's
oh
gonna be
yeah.
like a lot of like stuff.
It's gonna
So
be a lot of we gotta get this together.
yeah,
Oh, don't die.
I will die, but not yet.
No.
One day I'll die. Okay.
Who's gonna explain anatomy to me?
Yeah, then the colors are just people. You couldn't do it.
I
No, I more
mean,
just have an
I
evolution
I
background,
could. I
and it
just
was
wouldn't be able
very
to do it realistically.
yeah. It was actually, and I think I mentioned this to you, Mars, when we talked about the idea, but it was very important to me that they had some sort of bounds of
Yes.
realistic sort of what a human with these traits would be like, right? Um, and that sort of thing. So it
I
is important
definitely
there.
remembering that being a passion of yours and that you wanted to explore that with
Yeah.
these particular characters,
Yeah.
which I was more than happy to let you do. And
Um
I was like, if you're happy drawing, that's gonna make for a
yeah.
much more fulfilling
So at the
project.
moment, Jamie, it's vast majority vertebrates, right? There obviously are some exceptions. Uh, uh because I technically think sharks aren't vertebrates because they have cartilage.
I don't think sharks are vertebrates off the top of my head.
Yeah. So there are very slight uh exceptions in the sense of that like yeah, that sharks are not vertebrates. Yeah, they're not.
Ah,
So that sharks are not vertebrates.
answer has
So
been
besides that, yeah, so it's sort of like, um, I don't think we were really trying to delve into insect collars. Um, Mainly, I think it's a size issue, and also when you think about it, like technically they're all mammals, right?
yep.
Technically they're all mammals, and when you get down to how physiology works, it's much harder to
It definitely
explain
gets
insectoid
complicated.
wings and multiple legs, right? Having more than 4 limbs is hard on any larger, animal's brain, right? That's why we don't have them, because the amount of brain power it takes to then manipulate that second set of limbs is literally not worth it. We have no need for it. So that's why it's important to have, that's why it's, I guess more is the word, quote unquote unrealistic to have humanoids with wings on top of arms and legs, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I
because
would honestly agree because
because
knowing what I know about human biology and neuroanatomy, it's way too much brain power
yeah,
that
it
we
takes
just could not dedicate to
so
that
much brain power.
kind of
Forget about the
movement.
weight amount, right? Forget about the weight amount. Um, this sort of thing. Well, so what's interesting, Jamie, and that's interesting that you bring it up. I would very hard because of how collars are done. Technically, they're all mammals, right? Technically, they're all mammals because they all fit the mammalian traits needed to be considered a mammal. They all have hair to a certain extent. They are all warm-blooded. All of them, yes, even Cynet and any other fish species, like they are all warm-blooded. They are, you know, might be weird to say, but yes, they do all give live birth. Like that's just how it works, right? Like so they're very humanoid. They're
No,
human
no eggs.
first, right? They're human first, and then they became colors. So all the resemblance is sort of like a backtrack. So technically, if you think about it, Milano scales would be more like a pangolin's scales, like just technically, right? When you think about it, and less like a caiman's scales. Now, design wise, yes, he's based off a caiman, right? Because I think that's cool, and I sort of accepted that, right? Because I'm not sitting here trying to make like new species, right? Like I'm not trying to sit here and be like I need to make all new animals that are just vaguely based off the cool parts of animals. Like that was not the intention. But I did want a certain level of realism to it. But yeah, they would all have to be, you know, they would all have to be warm blooded because, well, Jamie, for that you can, you will be fulfilled eventually in the sense of that my Pathfinder character is an arachnid and will eventually have a hybrid arachnid form that
With
will
multiple
do what you
arms.
want. Yeah. So wait until then. It's not in the comic, but I think your desires will be fulfilled with that. Like Corey is a naughty, which is a spider person. Yeah. So good
A
news for
very
you.
cool concept.
Um, but yeah. So they're all warm blooded. So it's sort of one of those things where I am avoiding the insects and other, fully invertebrates, right? Um, there are there's the exceptions of yes, like quote unquote sharks exist, but again, they're all technically more modeled in how they evolved. They're more similar to a like a whale or a dolphin than a shark, like anatomically, right?
Mm.
Um, Now
They
it
still
is an
need to be able
interesting thing.
to function as a humanoid, essentially.
Well, yeah, because like they're all gonna have to be, amphibious, right? Like they all can exist on land, right? I'm not trying to make like mermaids essentially. That's not the intention. So they all have legs, right? Like
No.
they all have this sort of thing. Um, Now I will say the one biggest suspension of disbelief, solely anatomically wise, is that because when you look at whales and you look at dolphins and manatees and all that sort of stuff and all the mammals that went back to the sea, all of their tails operate up and down. But as fish don't, and everything else that wasn't a mammal first, and was aquatic first, they operate left to right. And while tails can technically, as seen with like dogs and cats and stuff, move left to right, um, uh it's not the powerhouse of the cell. I'm joking. It's not that's not where you gain your most power, is not left to right. You gain your most power with the whole body moving up and down. So Sinnit technically, if we go solely anatomically, wouldn't be an amazing swimmer because his tail does operate left to right. But that's where we start doing the suspension of disbelief, right? Because shark tails are rule of cool. That's rule of cool, Mars. And that's how it does. I don't have any plans for those things at the moment, Jamie, but they probably do happen in my art in general, but they won't happen in Outcast.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately just not how the cookie crumbles. But I do like people like that. I do enjoy
I
that. So
I do promise that the wings we do
that
have
is
planned
true,
are
Jamie.
going to be very gorgeous.
Yeah,
So
and he would
hopefully we
kick
fulfill
as
that
well as
desire in
tail
that sense.
swim and everything. So it's a lot. Honestly, his tail probably acts more as a rudder. In the end. Again, mathematically, he probably does
I
do
think
kick
it's
and
less of
pull
a fully
more.
functioning tail, and yeah, like a rudder.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, think about it, right? Why would he not use his legs? You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah,
He's got
and it's like
flippers.
he is mostly on land. The tail kind of goes unused.
Yeah, oh no, he's definitely faster than a normal human. And that's one of the problems, quote unquote, with collars. So yeah. And that's sort of the very important thing about
Yeah,
like how all those sort of things that they would be better at X than a normal human, right?
yeah,
And that is a keep that in mind. So
yeah.
with that though, I think we are gonna wrap up. As
Yes.
it is, I very much enjoyed talking about this. I would do this anytime, Jamie.
Oh, I had
I
a ton
could
of
go on
fun.
forever.
I,
I hope you
I
have tons of questions after you read the first 3 episodes because I'm so ready for that.
oh,
And
same.
being a loon. Well, I do have plans, Jamie, because there are tons and tons of really cool creatures out there, and and animals and everything that are really cool that sometimes I just don't know about, right? Because there's so many, and so Mars and I were thinking of a way that would allow people to like suggest animals for like background characters because I, in my heart of hearts, want to draw them all, but obviously they can't all have like main character roles.
Yes, but we do need
So
background
we do need
characters.
background characters, and many of them will be colors. So keeping a mental list of things that you would like to see in the thing, they will have unfortunately, like I said, it probably won't be insects, arachnids, anything in that sort of realm.
But
It
if it's
would
a
be stuck.
mammal or a bird,
Yeah, loons are really bad at being birds. They're good at yelling though. They're good at yelling though. I would see a
hey,
cormorant though. I would
that
love to see a
that's a
cormorant.
strength in someone's world.
They're evolved enough to somehow make it here, right? Um yeah, no, that yeah, exactly. That's exactly the sort of thing we'd want to do, so see, it all works out. Like penguin
Yeah.
collars definitely exist, all this sort of stuff. So it's
Oh,
definitely
absolutely.
like essentially the world's your oyster. I'm sorry, except for invertebrates besides sharks. I think that's the limit. You got sharks, and that's the only invertebrate you're allowed
Yeah,
to
pretty much.
choose from. Solely because I think sharks are really cool. And no, I gotta say,
We just really wanted a shark person, and it
no,
worked well
literally,
within it.
Jamie, it was we needed another animal that was very very
Of the
that
sea.
was of the yeah, that was very good at swimming. Like so everybody can swim, all the callers can swim, like they are able to. They're not like adverse to it or would drown, and they're all decent swimmers to a certain extent. Like Milano's a caiman, Aster's an albatross and everything. Yeah, reptiles, amphibians. Yeah, I think the moniker is vertebrate. You're good to go. Plus sharks. I can't think of anything that falls outside that category. I can't think of anything
Nothing's
else
coming to mind.
because I can't think. No, yeah, that's it. I guess we can't call Felix a caller anymore. He's not a
I guess
vertebrate.
not.
He's something else.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Felix.
tree frog collar, definitely an option. Definitely an
It could
option.
happen.
All of those options. Flying squirrel collar, all of these are fair game.
We have a great horned owl lined up for later down the
Yeah, that's the
line.
only other color that we have like fully set.
Currently planned.
Yeah, yeah, that's the only one we have like. There is one other relatively main color. See, crawler is how we got to color. So very funny that I bet that's autocorrect. But yeah, I said we were finishing, and we're finishing. I have way too much energy talking about this.
I am surprised, Dory. You're usually crashing by this point.
Because it's just like, this is the shit, right? Like, this is all I wanted out of like this comic, was like, if this happened, I would die, and I have, because this is
Okay.
it. Top tier.
Oh,
Like, I got all I wanted.
You revived and then died again.
We've gotten fan art of the boys, and we're getting questions about the science. Like, what else could I ask for? What else could I ask for? And
well
I mean,
on the way.
read it. That's the last.
Yes, please.
Read it. Enjoy the effort that we have put in.
Give me some validation here. I'm kidding.
But yeah, all right. Thank you, everybody, for joining, for hanging out. We loved having you all here.
You don't die.
Yes, again, one day far in the future, not anytime soon.
Jamie, you and I have to peer pressure her into not dying. We'll do it as a team. I know we can
can't die.
It.
Then I can't die now. Then the comic would never be finished. That's the goal, right? And then Mars and I already have comic ideas lined up for fucking after that. So we're here for the long haul, right? And I gotta say, Mars is gonna start her job in like 2-3 years, whatever it is, and she's not getting out of it. She's not getting out of it because she's going into the working world and being a normal person. Like, no. She's stuck.
If anything, the working world will be less intensive than grad school, of all things. So I will actually have more free time when I'm actually working.
See, that's probably what I'll end up doing, right? Is my goal is to like get a work from home, part-time, full-time job, whatever, that is literally like, this is menial, and I no thoughts, head empty, you do it, you make money, and then I got all the time for this shit. And so that's the goal.
The vibe.
Exactly. So yeah, so we're here for the long run, because we already made a pact to each other that even if nobody fucking reads this comic, we're making it oath. And we've already surpassed that, because we already have at least 5 people that are gonna read this comic.
Very interested.
And
so I am happy as a clam.
I'm more than happy. All right, great. Yes, we're ending now, actually, officially. Good night. We will be here Thursday. No stream tomorrow. That's changing. Ace Attorney is now going to be on Sundays for a long time, for at least the semester.
Yes.
So look forward to that.
January through April.
Yeah, and then we'll see what happens after that. But we will see you guys for Thursday. For Drawing with Dragons.
Drawing and Dragons. So that's still happening.
We get a lot to talk about.
I'm glad to provide it, Jamie.
I'll link that. So happy. Yeah, this community, I will die before this community becomes a toxic fandom. Okay, so
don't even say
everything. No, because they're fucking getting banned. We ain't doing none of that shit. We ain't dealing with that shit. So I want this place
bringing down the hammer
because I want this place to be like the best place where we all get to vibe. That's what the streams are, right? We all get to vibe, and we all get to love our boys, right? These beautiful boys, the best boys. And that's all we want. So thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being here. Jamie, it's always a pleasure. Glad you got to hang around, even though you need to go get some sleep. And exactly.
Yeah, thank you for sticking it out and putting up with our all over the place tangents and weird ass humor.
All right. And
we try, guys. We try.
It was on topic for a good while. It
was. I'm pretty impressed with us.
It's one of those things. It's the hype that it's like coming, right? Like before it was like in the distance. Now it's like fucking here.
It's like,
and I'm like,
it's here.
Okay.
It's on Webtoon.
Yes. All right. You'll see more posts about that. Stay in the Discord. But good night.
Stay in the Discord. Follow our socials, and we'll see you Thursday.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.